Hello, and welcome to the Old Farm Bus Podcast. This is the back of the bus session.
Hello and welcome to the Old Farm Bus Back of the Bus Sessions podcast. Today I'm absolutely buzzing for this guest. He's a very good friend of mine. We've never met before, but I've been on your journey, man. I've been keeping in touch and seeing what you're up to, and you're amazing. So thank you for being here, Muzzy Foley.
Hey.
I go
love
mad,
it.
man. I go mad. I bring the energy.
That's it, the crowd go wild.
Now, I bring the energy, but what you do is mess things up. Because we got a structure, and you're like, no, we're doing it this way today.
Yeah, structures are here to be restructured.
To be honest, I love that. I need people throwing stuff in the mix and just winding it up and bringing it about. So, what is this then? We've got a game that we're going to start.
Yeah, we're going to start with a game. It's
I'm
called
buzzing.
Random Word Generator Freestyle.
I'll just say this. All those guests that have been on here, I think I've done about 90 now, learn from this man. Because we need to start with games. We need madness going. This is what I want. Bring it on.
Well, let's wait till after the
Yeah,
game, because, this feature could be immediately scrapped.
We've hyped it up, but it's probably all edited now.
So the way that it works, we go on a website called randomwordgenerator.com, which is one of them websites where it does exactly what it says on the tin. So we click generate random words, and it's going to give us a word. I then have to incorporate that word into an improvised rap, into a freestyle immediately. Now, when you choose, you set the pace, you can change the word. Wow. As soon as you've changed the word, all right, so we're starting on shiver. We know what we're going to have. We've got shiver. As soon as you're bored of shiver,
in the film.
As soon as you're bored of shiver, you click that button and we could get any word, and you just shout that out, and then I will change the pace of the rap.
This is a lot of power for me. I feel very powerful.
You are in control.
Oh, wow.
Okay, and we don't know.
Nobody's ever told me that before.
Yeah, we don't know. You're the driver of this bus.
Oh, okay, baby.
All right, so there's my phone. So
yeah. And we're picking a random beat on Spotify.
Yeah, let's see random what we got.
Okay, Spotify, find beat. Beat, and now we've got shiver. And then what do I press, brother, to find new words? Just
generate random words. Okay.
Are you ready?
Yeah, let's
brilliant.
do this.
I love this.
Start the engine.
Can you come co-host, please? I'll pay for your ticket every week. This is great. Right. Feeling?
Yeah, okay. We got a bit of Dr. Dre.
Yeah? You happy?
I like this. Okay.
Shiver.
Platinum plus. Sit here chatting to us back of the bus, so cold that you shiver when I deliver like a river. I know that I was pulling like the mic was a trigger. Go figure. I'm waiting for the word if you throw it. It's that old school extraordinary poet, and I'm giving you a favor, showing you the flavor. I know I make noise, you wouldn't wanna be my neighbor. I'm like Darth Saver. What did you say? What was the word? Yeah, I got the illness, so witness the fitness with stillness and quickness. I test this like litmus. You best just bear witness. I know that I am gifted like Christmas. The word was what? Oui, that's yes in French. Was I a substitute when I used to play football? Was I sitting on the bench? No, I'm not. I'm way too hench. So I'm flying as a striker. Disappointment with disappointment is not expected. I know that I was ready every time that you feel rejected. I get that mic and it reflected. Lyrically, I never twitch, I never glitch, I never switch. And I could say that old school rhyme like an old school time on the bus when I flow it. It's the poet and you know it. And I include your whole crew. I never exclude. I tell that every time I'm on the mic I wreck you. I'm in the venue like a menu in a restaurant. I got the lifestyle and a bright white smile. That is Colgate. Looking for the perfect person for a soulmate. I know I'm fresher than ever. Whatever the weather, forever together. I'm clever. I'm so magnetic, like Magneto for all of your people. Shout to my X-Men. Shout to my best friend. Shout to the what was the word that you said? Aunt. Look. Like my mother's sister, I'm anti. Lyrically, I tell it like it's frankly. Frank Ocean, the way that I can channel when I'm feeling kinda orange. Be my guest, like the chandelier in Beauty and the Beast. I'm hitting beauty on the beat to Dr. J. What did you say? Not feeling neglect, only feeling respect when I mic check. And I tell you I was ready best. Protect your neck. I got layers like an onion, feet with no bunions. Everybody wondering I'm low like a dungeon. I keep you wondering and guessing.
Venus.
All the way to Venus, I can rhyme it with my nose when I flow, like Pinocchio's nose, it grows loads when I lie. I tell lies, never, always tell the truth, like I'm standing witness in a court booth.
Reality.
Cause my reality, I'm back to life, back to reality, with clarity,
Sensitivity.
without no vanity, my sensitivity to my ability, I'm flowing like soliloquies, I'm satisfied with the fattest rhyme.
Invincible.
Cause I'm invincible like Arsenal back in 03. I know that I was not the goalie like Leno, or Seaman. Yo, I got offers that you proffer and the video can buffer while I suffer, and I know that I could off any
Quota.
MC that was too soft. What's the word?
Quota.
Yeah, I make my quota, and I know lyrically I'm rowing my boat like I'm a boater, and I know I was really ready and I never pandered the voters.
Example.
I set examples, and I know the MCs I can trample. I bear my samples, I got the motivation, my flow aviation, meaning it's flyer than ever, higher
Trivial.
than ever. And that's, what was the word for real?
Trivial.
Yeah, it's not trivial, it's never no trivia. I'm raw like the coke flowing straight from Bolivia. I'm raw like a road that was paved in Namibia. I don't mean to rub it in like Nivea, cause honestly I'm feeling cheese and I do it with ease. I make my Q's and my P's and it's the end of the beat. What's the word? Forget. I got no regrets. My favourite food, French bread, and we called out baguette.
Dude, you're right. That was the sickest thing to ever happen on this podcast. Outright, the best thing. Dude, that was brilliant.
Thank you very much.
Man, what a way to start.
What a way to travel on the bus.
Welcome here, brother.
Normally the people that do raps on the back of the bus
Wow.
are the worst people. I don't know if you've ever travelled on a night bus when someone's got their phone at the back and they're playing like a grind beat and they're just like, I'm just going to shank everyone up.
Never
That's
ever.
what you sometimes get on the night bus.
I don't know if I've been, other than these buses, on a bus for about 10 years.
Yeah.
I try and stay off of buses.
That's the
but
safest
I'm a
way.
Ripley boy, town, small countryside boy. You're a Londoner, so I'm guessing buses and trams galore, yeah?
You could write a whole novel on the happenings of a night bus.
Have you ever been tempted to do that? Is that something that had...
I'm not a very good writer of horror stories, to be honest.
I'd love to know your experiences, though, and who you've met, the conversations you've had.
Or never have conversations.
Wow.
Like, if you meet someone on a night bus, you're probably getting robbed.
Right, okay. Big shout.
Or getting thrown up on.
Now, brother, that was incredible. Freestyling. I am terrified with it. I've never attempted it, really. As soon as it happens and the beat comes on and all my hip-hop mates are going for it, I look with envy, not jealousy, envy, because you're kind of like, oh, bless you. I'm glad you're doing good, but I wish that was me. It's such a skill. Have you done that through childhood? Did you start off freestyling and just being playful with mates and stuff at school?
Well, it's like one of them things that seem to happen without me having this revelatory experience of when it happened. You know, it's like if I asked you when's your first memory, you don't really, you know, at
First
some point you
memory is
started
elusive.
remembering, right? You start. There's a moment where we become conscious. With freestyling, there's a moment I became unconscious. I was rapping without almost knowing it.
Yeah.
I think it was around. I was always doing poetry from kind of as soon as I could write. Really, I was trying to put words together in a creative way. It started with the dinosaurs. Literally, my evolution started with the dinosaurs. So when I
most of us really
exactly, you know, when I was around 3 or so, I started getting really into dinosaurs, as many 3-year-old boys do. In fact, there's a real impact on literacy that people who are interested in dinosaurs and people who aren't, there's a difference, a tangible difference.
That's so interesting.
Because you're learning long Latin names at a stage where you're learning to speak. At a stage where your brain is its most sponge-like. So, you know, I was thinking, you know, at 3 years old, what's a diplodocus? What's a triceratops? What's a stegosaurus? What's a tyrannosaurus? And if you're able to say these words when you're forming your linguistics, it's going to benefit you. So I was interested in reeling off these long names, you know, and remembering them.
It's very syllables and so on.
Yeah.
So the way it sounds.
Yeah, it's Latin, right? It's a foreign language. And so fast forward 10 years, I realized that I had this affinity for poetry and putting words together. And then as you become a teenager, you start looking for music that represents you. Now, at this time, I was going in the Channel Islands, which is a small island 9 miles long, 5 miles wide, called Jersey. And I thought, you know, as a teenager here in Jersey, in a small island in the shadow of France, nothing to do, what kind of music represents me? And it was gangster rap.
The most obvious choice.
Yeah,
Clearly,
it's just
your
like,
grandma
I was
got
like,
you into that.
yeah. Why have I chosen music that was nothing to do with my experience at all? But what did kind of draw me in towards it in a magnetic way, that's one of the words that came up, was the lyricism. And because I love words, you've got 3 minutes. Where can you find a song that has the most words packed into it possible?
True.
And it's rap, you know. In one rap song, you've probably got more bars than the entirety of the Beatles' output. You know, they had like 4 lyrics a song, you know, that they would just repeat.
Hey,
So,
stick to simple. It's what we know.
and it wasn't like...
Talk about love a little bit.
Yeah.
We'll be good.
So it wasn't like I started being one of them. Like, I didn't really like Eminem at the time. I could respect how good he was, but I wasn't kind of like one of them white boys who's like, I'm gonna grow up, I'm gonna be Eminem. So I started listening to a lot of like underground hip hop and just loving the way that they were putting words together, even if what they were talking about is like, you know, I'm not going to do a drive-by. I can't drive, you know, like I've just passed my cycling proficiency. And even then I need 2 hands on the handlebar. Where am I going to hold an AK?
You mate on the back, surely.
So it was still an odd thing for me to conceive that I became a hip hop artist. But you know, I was playing this music, and then when the music was off, I was walking down the road and I was reciting it back, and I was remembering it, the whole song, hearing it a few times. And then it got to be that when the rap music was on, I was like, well, this isn't about me. So I was speaking over it. So disrespectful, playing the song, and then instead of rapping in
they're trying to
their
talk
terms,
about gun crime.
yeah.
And you're talking about being on your bike.
They'll be like, you know, I just did this at the hands of gun crime, and I'll be like, well, I just had this sandwich at lunchtime.
Yeah. That's amazing.
And I've already switched up the punchline.
Wow.
You know, it's back at the bus time. So it was, that's what was happening, and I was freestyling over it. And then when I was like 13 or 14, people started realizing that I could do this, and I guess that I started taking more ownership of it. So it really was. At school, you'd get crowds gathering, and they'd say, "Oh, you know, look, do this, insult this person, and insult that person."
Wow.
So people would line up to get like comedy roasted through rap. And it started off, the older kids would actually take the piss of it. You know, they would say like,
"Look what he's doing."
Yeah, they would come up and be like, "Oh, you know, Muzzy, spit some rhymes or whatever," in like a derogatory way.
Yeah.
And then when I started getting bookings for shows and stuff, the same people. They always crawl in on Facebook Messenger like, "Oh, you got a ticket to Latitude, mate." Like, It's like, no, I haven't. I remember, you know.
Really.
So there was a point where people quite quickly, including myself, realised that it wasn't a joke, because I could have just kept doing it in a joke kind of way. But then I started putting songs together and putting little CDs together that I would just pass out at school. And again, my record label was my mum. Because I was like, "Mum, can I have 30 quid? She said, what do you want with that?" And I was like, "I'm going to print CDs out at the local youth club."
Foley.
Yeah. So we'd go to the youth club who had a CD pressing facility. And I can still remember the smell of them CDs. And they were like these purple CDs. And I put the CD in the case. Just one of them ones you can get from W.H. Smith, the clear plastic ones. Print off like a track list, which was just me because I had no features or anything there. And then like a front cover. And I remember my first mixtape was called Soulful Stuff. And it was £5. And I pressed 200 copies. And I sold them all around school. I think I had to give most of them away or whatever. But they're still on my computer somewhere. And I fell in love with the process of hip hop, and now, let's say that was when I was 16. I'm 29 now.
It's still in Jersey at this point.
This was still in Jersey. No one else was doing hip hop. There was no hip hop scene.
How big's Jersey? Could you drive around it in a day?
Yeah, well, it's 9 miles long. So from east to west, as the crow
That's how long it
flies,
is.
if the crows decided to go there, it's 9 miles, 5 miles wide. It's not a big place.
Oh wow, okay.
So
how many schools are in Jersey then?
There were 6 secondary schools.
6.
You know, so I went to 1/6.
And one of the biggest ones, the bigger sort of ones, or they're all similar?
I went to I guess it would be the equivalent of a grammar school. So again, we're very divorced from the reality of hip hop here. So it's just no one knows how this has happened.
You're separating it even further.
It wasn't like I was like on the street corners, you know, like outside the chip shop doing hip hop.
These are the conversations you want though. Like, it's supposed to be accessible. Diction, words, using words to a beat, however, and we want all the stories. It doesn't always have to be a sad sob story or I grew up in the ghetto or whatever. How did you find diction? How did you find using words and creating an identity or telling your story And I love hearing something like this, which is so far from the mold.
Yeah, and I think the trick is, I've never pretended to be anything other
that's
than
why I
am.
like you, really,
and it's
genuinely.
it's like there's no way that I could like spin this somehow when that I was involved in criminality. You know, it's like there's no way. I mean, one time I kicked a football through a bus window and I had a police chase.
Get off of this bus.
Yeah, am I gonna make a whole song about, you know, like
an album?
I kicked a window through a bus. Now there's no one left to trust.
Oh man!
Police wanted me in cuffs.
Woo! It's getting dark.
I ran, filled the breath upon my lungs. It was tough. There's, you know, I don't have these.
Just how you go into it so quickly.
I don't have. So I don't have these stories, but I was always able to use humor. I guess the guy in the most mainstream, like, he's got such a stupid name, but it's Lil Dicky, right? He's got this tremendous talent that he turns himself into a joke, but he's never pretended to be anything other than he is. And I think that
authenticity.
Whatever you do, if you're authentic with it, there's no one that can kind of disagree.
I mean, look at like Mike Skinner is my prime go-to, but it really was, you know, back in the day when hip-hop was really ripe in America and the garage scene was really ripe in the UK, he noticed that everyone in America was speaking consciously, they were talking their truths, and nobody in the UK was doing that quite yet. So he decided, I love garage, I love partying and being with my mates, I'm just going to talk real shit over the top of this music. And the moment he did that, everyone was like, this is proper. He's talking in a way that is accessible, it's to me, whereas everyone else was just mumbling over this thing or just telling a complete non-truth.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what his niche, that made him rich. Like, everyone became, the Mike Skinner thing, the Birmingham guy talking about going out, drugs, being around in circles. Everyone understood it.
Yeah.
I think that's a great example of what you're explaining.
Yeah, because he just found a niche, you know. Where was the music for people waiting in line
and telling
at a fast food store, looking at an attractive woman and fantasizing? You know, where was that
what a
niche?
Beat that is as well. What a beat you just got me going then.
There was like a grime remix of that as well with Kano and everyone.
Well, they all pioneered it together. They were all looking at one another, taking influence, and that's where it really started to flame up. Everyone was going, right, we're going to tell our truths now. We're going to come forward on the music we want to be a part of. And Dizzy Rascal as well. They pioneered something
in
there.
the corner. And there's something so British about it. And the kind of emergence of UK hip-hop, it first started off with kind of this copying of the American accent.
That's what I was explaining.
Yeah, and until you get kind of Rodney P and Black Twang and this whole movement that says, no, we're not, this is England, you know, this is Britain.
That's it.
And taking pride in that authenticity, which hip-hop has always been about. They have this whole obsession with reality in hip-hop. Yeah. Which is an odd tension, isn't it? Because so much of hip-hop is hyper-real, is exaggerated traits and hyperbole that is not true. So I think that the idea with reality in hip-hop is different. But that was always my approach. My approach was never going to be try and market myself as someone who's going to beat you in a fight. I've literally was just doing a lyric the other day. I've never had a fight in my life. But there was an occasion when I was 11, I think in year 7, when somebody reckoned that they could be stepping up to me and they punched me out in a second and I fell to the floor. I surrendered it all like the French in a war. I was embarrassed. But now I'm semi-famous, kind of as a rapper.
Dude, every time. Please, anytime you want to, go into your flow. It's beautiful.
Yeah, that's it. So it's like... But what's funny with that story is I was beaten up at a bus stop when I was 11. Fast forward to these years, a decade later, I was 21, and I was running a workshop in prison, right, doing a poetry workshop. And the guy that beat me up was in my class.
No.
Yeah. He didn't recognise me already. But
you saw him straight away as well when you got in there?
I remember. I always say his name, but you know who you are. I don't.
I'm watching this behind bars.
If you're watching off, a bus podcast from somewhere in the Channel Island Category P prison,
I've got faith.
Yeah.
I believe.
What's your reach like? Yeah. His reach was very good. Him in the face.
Low blow.
Yeah. So it just showed. The directions that a life can take. So I was glad to be on the receiving end of that. But now my hip hop takes me into, although I wasn't involved in criminality as a child, I'm heavily involved in criminality now, just from the side of rehabilitation, not kind of facilitation, which would be a very different thing. So some
Sometimes
way,
they intertwine.
I found myself behind bars after all.
I mean,
Pun intended.
we'll go into everything hip hop because you seem like an encyclopedia of knowledge, and I really love that. And you may know that the underground scene and so on, where it stemmed from. We spoke about where you got your thirst for words from, and why you particularly went into rap, which is a crazy story. What about the confidence? Because I spoke about, when a beat comes on, I'm seeing all my mates go, and then I just go inside myself a little bit. I've psychoanalyzed, and I know where that pain or fear or whatever's come from. What was your household like? Because you seem so incredibly confident in yourself, which is brilliant. I admire the hell out of that, and that's kind of what we're doing today, is doing a workshop and teaching the kids. And I think that's one of the core values and main principles of getting anywhere in life, is growing confidence. I think it's a really missed thing in education and really vital. So was that in the household? Were you in a loud, crazy, brothers, sisters, parents whacking on music and just going mental?
Not at all.
Oh, God. What has my image got?
It's even more of an anomaly because it's not like my parents were musical. My sister tried the saxophone when we were in year 5. And I actually, if she doesn't have any fear, shame and embarrassment about her performance, I do. Because I remember at school, I was in year 3 and they brought us all into the hall, all right, and her and her best friend, and they're still best friends, her and Rosanna, my sister's called Hannah, so it's with the head teacher says, Hannah and Rosanna here performing, is like, she's the one, Robbie Williams, she's the one.
I was going to go into that.
Yeah, I think it was, and yeah, so like performing Robbie Williams on the saxophone, she's the one. That was the most excruciating 3 or 4 minutes of my life.
No. Like when Lisa Simpson, a dad's supposed to bring the valve and he forgets, he goes to the pub instead.
It was similar. It was something like that.
Do you know that Simpsons episode?
It sounded like foxes mating. If you've ever heard that kind of we have
loads down here.
Violent, threatening screech.
Yes.
Sorry, Hannah, but that's how it sounded.
The whole way through, and did know, because I don't.
That was the start and end
teachers,
of her musical career. Yeah.
Teachers sometimes go, "Hey, give them a minute," and then you go, "Come on, we'll clap her off or whatever."
Yeah, no, it was kind of just received in silence.
They let her
go. The teachers hung her out to dry. Hung them both out to dry.
Oh, dude, ouch.
And now everyone was like, "Oh, your sister, she's terrible."
Yeah.
I was like, at this point, I haven't discovered music either. So it wasn't like, my parents were... My mum used to like the Lighthouse Family,
Who doesn't?
I think my grandparents were kind of into words. Both grandfathers were very intelligent, very kind of literate on one side. Yeah, I think, well, what one of my... so I've got one granddad who was from Horsforth in Yorkshire and one who is from Kerry in Ireland. And then the extent of my Irish grandfather's literature career was a calendar, right? But he did keep it up. So he had this calendar which kind of, it wasn't structured across with a small box for the days. It was a long rectangular thin box for each day. And without fail, for about 50 or 60 years, he would record the weather of that day to the minutiae of detail, like a meteorologist would.
Sure.
Like high pressure in the south.
No.
Yeah, honestly. And then he would record maybe 2 or 3 lines of what he did that day, but it was poetic. But for 60 years, without fail, this kind of calendar diary.
Do the family still have it? Is that an heirloom?
Yeah, we've got it. We've got all of the... And my dad actually has them now hung up in his house, like as a memory of my granddad.
That really is... But did you go through it as well?
Yeah, so whatever
day...
look
at your old birthdays.
Well, whatever day you're on.
40s.
Like today, what are we on? 30th of August?
Yeah.
We could go... If we were in my dad's house now, we'd turn for 30th of August. We would know that it was overcast, slightly cloudy on that day, that my granddad had a full English breakfast and walked a dog in a park and tripped over a tree root. We would know that in that detail for that particular year. You could choose any year.
I'm coming to you guys to research into climate change. We can
there
really
you go.
Get
you could
to
actually
the
map
roots
it out.
of
it. He's mapped it out.
These are the people we need to be listening to.
Exactly. So, I mean, but in a way, these are my influences. I remember when I first started to rap at like 14, my granddad was visiting and he would always be like, yeah, put a beat on, do a rap.
Brilliant.
It was really encouraging. And then I never had anyone say no. My mum was relatively supportive, but kind of like, oh, what's he doing? And then I think my parents split up when I was 14, and then kind of I didn't see my dad for a while. So a lot of my raps were kind of I'm kind of embarrassed about them now because it's that like kind of teenage angst thing.
Yeah.
And now that I didn't at the time, but now I get on well with my dad, I'm like, oh, I kind of wish I didn't put so much out there.
Did you proper out him?
Yeah, and it's like, until you become a parent yourself and you realise how difficult things can be and life can turn out.
You were cleaning out your closet.
Yeah, and I was always like, where's my snare in my headphones? Yeah. Well, my dad probably took it. So there was a lot of those raps, and I guess maybe I was just looking for some element of victimhood. Yeah. Because what other card did I have to play? You know, as a straight white male growing up, I was like, I've got to find some victimhood somewhere. Okay, yeah, single parent family. This is going to be my thing. And now it's like I wouldn't do that now.
So you're still building like the words came. You know, your granddad used a lot of linguistics and stuff. Your family promoted it. They never told you not to do it. They were just looking over and going, "What is this?"
Yeah, I mean, my mum always wishes it was a bit more like. Financially rewarding, let's say. So she gets annoyed if I like the other day I got asked to do an advert for what is decent money, but then we recorded the advert, we filmed it, and I looked back at it and I was like, there's no way this is going out. Yeah. I cannot put my name to this. This is awful. We
need to talk about this.
Yeah, and then my mum and her partner actually just gave me a right going, like why aren't you? You're looking a gift horse in the mouth, a gift supermarket horse in the mouth, and you're turning down this money. Who do you think you are? We had to work so hard for that.
I got dignity, Mum. I got dignity. Like, my peers respect me.
You know, I'm not doing this rap for this supermarket, which I can't name, but, you know, I've always loved Asda. Yeah. So,
man,
if that was who it was,
but
you know, like.
There wasn't necessarily music in the house, but were they still quite outgoing people, eccentric people? What are they like?
My mum is very she's vivacious, you know, like many northern women are.
You do like your words. I love it. Can't wait to edit this back.
She's full of life, you know, like very outgoing, and the house was always full of people and their friends and stuff. And they, you know, my parents would always support me at gigs. I think my mum didn't used to like going to gigs because I would just be there like moaning about my dad at gigs, you know, like, oh, I've got an absent father, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, there are other things you can talk about. But at the time for me, there wasn't that, you know, as a 15-year-old, that's kind of your universe. The house is your universe, this domestic sphere.
And you're still on Jersey.
Still on Jersey, yeah.
Are the nights quite sort of rammed with people? Have you got a good community of you about? What are the nights like? And did that sort of, you couldn't wait to perform the next weekend and the next, you were always just performing then? Did that get the buzz going?
Well, yeah, I mean, we kind of started a rap, there was a rap scene already there, like a burgeoning rap scene. There's this
guy. Did you pioneer Jersey's rap scene?
No, you know what? There's a guy before me, and I've always got. It's called Matthew, right? Okay, and Bean Shaw was his rap name at the time. I think it still is. And he was just doing it for like 20 years before I even. And he's still doing it. Like, he's a legend.
This is great.
If you go anywhere in the UK, there's going to be like one guy who like. Every small principality, every province, you know, there's going to be one guy who's held it down, probably 100%. On his own or
I've
on
got him
her
in my
own.
head now. I know exactly
if
who that
you don't
is.
know the guy, you're the guy.
Yeah.
And so he
mouth, how you doing there?
And he set up this battle rap league, right? Imagine this. So, and I was like 17. It's like one of my first shows. I had done one show before that, which like it went really well actually. It was probably like one of my busiest shows ever. Was the first one I ever did. And then I remember doing these rap battles when I was 17, and I can still remember some of like the insults. There was one guy. What did I say to him? It was like, you've brought your cousin and your cousin's crew, but who the fudge are you? With your front teeth both two, looking like the donkey from Buckaroo. Dude. I remember those. I remember those like open.
What is it? Don't flop the rap battles.
Yeah.
Have you ever been in anything like that? Have you done?
No, I haven't. You know what? As I've got older, I've probably got more cowardly. So it's just like I only enter things I know I'm gonna win. Yeah, like the Chem rap battle. Yeah.
God, dude, I've been showing people. Before we just get there, what was up with the Asda gig? What was up with?
Well, they wanted me to do
a rhyming word to Asda. I shouldn't have said it, but
let's say for legal purposes, a supermarket that could be Asda but could easily be George, an offshoot of Asda, or could easily be any other supermarket. So
you saved my back there, mate.
Yeah, so
I was going down.
This
got me out the way of it.
Whatever this supermarket is, they wanted me to basically lip sync. They didn't want me to do my own rap. They wanted me to lip sync.
Oh God.
To a rap that was already there, and it's like, Why would you get me to lip sync? That's
Yeah.
like getting a footballer and like, all right, you just watch other people play football,
Dude, I just
and we'll film you watching.
jump in with that. I had this with a company, and I won't name them, but it's sort of this more spiritual route thing, and they're putting, again, it's a promo video together, and they asked me to do the poem, and I sent it through. Yeah, I love the poem. Okay, can you record it for us? Recorded it for them, made my mate do this guitar thing, and they didn't think my accent was colloquial enough. That's the right word, isn't it? They didn't think it quite suiting, so they replaced me with a robot voice, an AI. And it's just like, what is kindness? Kindness is, and it's just literally
Mate, that's not a
blown me out the
metaphor for corporate
water.
culture,
It blew me, and they sent it back to me as an email. What do you think to this? I've never emailed back. I was just gone, do what you want, put it anywhere. I'm not precious to the words. I tried to help you out, but I can't believe you've just done that to me. Threw me under a
That is the
bus.
way that business works, guys. It's like, we actually don't want you. We want a robot.
Yeah, yeah.
That should just be the tagline of most
It would have been a
businesses.
little better because they're saying I wasn't colloquial. I'm really bad at saying that word, but my accent didn't fit. If they'd have picked someone, a Manchester person or somebody from around there to perform it, I would have felt better. But a robot.
Yeah, how colloquial can a robot be?
I was just, she must have typed it in
All
somewhere.
robots have American accents as well.
Exactly.
You know, like-
yeah. Could have got Tom Hanks to do it.
Yeah. That's a tough gig.
So you're lip syncing.
Yeah,
on this advert.
almost like dancing, you know, as well, like because you got.
Almost dance is not a good way to go.
Well, I looked at.
You've got to commit.
I was actually, and they made me edit it myself as well. And I looked back at it and I was like, this, you know, I think there's a few contenders, but this might be the worst thing you've ever done. You know, like the most embarrassing, you know, debilitating thing you have ever done. And I was still in two minds. No, so I was like, no, I went back to them. I was like, look, I can't do it. And they're like, just send it over anyway. And I was like, no. The PR people were like, just send it over. The company might still like it, whoever they are. And I was like, no, you're not getting it. I don't want to do it. But I think they'd never been in a position where people were turning down what is really easy money.
Yeah.
But then you think, when something's on the internet, it's on the
There.
internet forever. So I don't want to be that guy, you know.
Because that's the one thing people will define you by. They'll go to that video.
Yeah,
It's
and
the
they all-
worst thing you've possibly done, or the daftest, or whatever.
Yeah.
That's the one that they're showing to one another. So as you're building your business in essence, or your profile up, you have to be a little bit clever.
Yeah,
with it,
you
don't
don't want to be.
Or
You don't want to
selective.
be the Frosties kid. You know?
The Kellogg's
yeah,
on
yeah,
that.
yeah,
You kind of do. What's such a lie?
Yeah, well, but that's the thing. You don't want to be defined as a one. And I'm already kind of pushed a bit too much in that direction with the idea of like the rapping teacher. I'm marketed as somewhat of not a clown, but there's quite a gimmicky thing for that soundbite because, you know, I have my whole separate career where I do produce albums and quite serious albums and stuff. But people don't really want that. Like they
just
want me to.
The nature of the beast of media, though, isn't it? They
Yeah.
need to go really clickbaity, really easy. People will join with this. So, you know, there's so much about it. And like the discussion we've had on the way here when I picked you up from the station, education, it's nuanced and people will really work with you. The kids that are struggling, they don't work with the traditional or with this intellectual side of things. They're going to enjoy just the playfulness, the getting a beat on, being in that mode. But because the media have picked you up and they're like, this rapping teacher X, Y, and Z, then you've got this fence where I've seen it. You've got comments where people are like, get this jerk out of school, get this.
Yeah.
And then you've
I
got,
love those.
this is so special. Look what they're doing. And it's just, you didn't need to be bracketed there. You didn't need to be sent there. You're just doing a good thing.
Yeah, it's like one aspect of my work.
Yeah.
Although
there
I
you go.
do love when it receives criticism.
Yeah,
you know,
you've had some brilliant.
I love it because I use it as
comments.
obviously I use it as posters and marketing because it's brilliant. You know,
It's-
it's like it's not even a case of having thick skin. It's being a case of being so sure that what you're doing is a good thing that anyone who is like picking holes in it's like, well, you're just ignorant.
Not a nice person and driven by hate.
Yeah, it's just like you're basically like some
Sorted.
kind of Sith Lord just sitting on your Death Star, like trying to communicate. And I don't care. Like, it's funny.
You've not thought too much of them people,
Yeah,
but
well,
you've just drawn images for
I've
them.
thought enough about it. So I thought what I wanted to do, I wanted to gather like all of the hate in one place and just do it as a rap. I think that would be quite funny.
Brilliant.
Just like a diss track to myself.
You should do it in a mirror.
Yeah, exactly.
So have this really sad-looking reflection of you in that
Yeah,
side,
yeah.
and you're hammering him.
Anyway, you've heard it here first. That's in the plans.
Yeah. Go on. What were some of the best comments? Can you reflect on any?
Well, some of the funniest ones are there's like every time I go on TV, you get people kind of like crawling out from wherever they are. Like this old head teacher, I reckon. I mean, he must be old because he said it. I've been teaching for 60 years and been a head for 40. He might not have spoken like that. It was an email. I reckon he did. Anyway, so he sent me this long email. Honestly, it was kind of like 3/4 of the length of Pride and Prejudice. This email, and it contained a lot of both Pride and Prejudice. And he kind of like. It was one of them things where I was like, have you got enough megabytes for all this hate? Because it took me a while to read it, to be honest. Like, I started reading it at like 103 and it was like 108 by the time I finished. And it was all about how he had been teaching for so long and never in his life had he saw something so self-serving and preposterous as hip-hop used in the classroom.
Like that, though.
And he was like, he finished it with, some of us have been serving quietly all this time without looking for what you are looking for. Some of us are serving in absolute silence and diligence and duty and silence. And I just replied, well, you've not been serving silently enough if you're reaching out with these emails.
Yeah. You're not the only one that's ever received one of them. 100%.
Not silent enough. A lot of people that criticise using rap in education are people that tend to have nothing to do with rap or education.
Yeah.
So it's just like, well, cheers. Like someone,
too alien for them.
Someone was attacking me the other day, like repeatedly, and he was like, "I'm going to report you to the police." I'm not joking.
This is one of the funniest podcasts I've ever done because everything you're saying is preposterous in
so
itself.
He was like, I'm gonna report you to the police," and I wanted to really be on what charge, but I didn't want to encourage him. But anyway, he then commented again. He was just having a conversation with himself. You love it when you get like 20 and they're just talking to themselves in public. It's like if someone did that on the street, they might be arrested.
Yeah. Let
alone me. And he was like, on the charge of abuse. This is abuse. Rapping to children. Grime music in a classroom. This is actually abuse. I'm gonna. What school do you work? I'm gonna contact you. I want him to contact my school. Like just what he would find. Like because he's clearly associated rap music with black music and associated black music with criminality. So I want him to contact my school, speak to the all-black leadership team who employ me for the specific purpose of teaching through rap, and then to have his complaint. And I would love him to do it in person. But anyway, I was like thinking, what's this guy's specific qualification for talking about? I was saying, I've doing a doctorate in this. I've worked 10 years in the academic field and in the classroom. That's my qualification. What's yours? Didn't reply, but then I looked at his profile. Turns out that at the end of the day, he's really good at being a carp fisherman.
Oh, wow.
So he fishes. Yeah. He's a big fish in a small pond fisherman. And that qualifies him. Now, what I will say about the guy, he's good at fishing because some of the fish that he caught were brilliant.
Big style.
But I'm not going over to him.
Are we talking here?
I don't even know. They look big. But the thing is, I'm not commenting on his Instagram and saying, I could catch a bigger fish than that.
Yeah.
I'm leaving him to his thing because he can really do it, And he's got a fishing rod.
Yeah.
He's got the Wellington boots. I'm not saying, those boots don't fit you. I'm gonna tear up your Wellington boots. Call it soul destroying. I'm not. I'm not doing that.
That's getting him back.
Yeah.
Truthfully, through the art of language. I
love it. I'm like, I don't give any thought to the haters. Just spent 10 minutes on one guy.
You've clearly had this simmering.
Yeah. There's gonna be a whole album about this guy.
You've used wordplay towards your advantage.
I'm gonna do a diss track about fisherman haters, and the first line is, "None of you are getting off the hook," and that's as far as I've got.
God, no soul, mate.
I'm telling on you and your Wellington boots. Anyway,
this could go forever. This
is
what a brilliant human though to get that worked up, come across to you, and then you give something back, and then he's like, gone. It's out the way then.
Yeah.
But
I'm still waiting
Seriously.
for the police. They haven't shown up at the
I'd
door
love
just
to
yet.
have a podcast with him and just want to know. It is nice to get. That's why I love podcasts. I love meeting people and just find their vision. Like, what do you want? What do you want it to look like? And is it just all little mini fishermen like him?
Yeah, just a whole
You should have
classroom
invited
that's
him
full
to
of
one
carp.
night out with
Well,
you.
no, I
Just
always
one
say-
rap battle night out. One bit of entertainment.
I always
Maybe not
say
rap
that,
battle
yeah.
because they're just going to cuss each other, and you're like, well, this isn't quite a representation.
But when people don't like it or something, I never say like you're an idiot.
Yeah.
I say, well, why don't you come? Like
Yeah.
with hip hop education. Hip hop education is literally an organisation that we've run out of UCL, right? It's something that you can attend, you can book tickets to, you can sit in seminars, you can literally educate yourself on why hip hop is used as an educational resource and why it's so powerful and why we utilise it. And the people that will tell you about this are people that do it and are qualified to tell you about it. And I say, come along to this, and they're like, nah. So it's like, fine then.
You
Like-
did me a 3-page essay on why I'm a knobhead. I give you a little bit of something back, and then you just reply with nah.
Yeah, they're just like,
That's
they,
enough
they
for you,
don't
is
want
it?
And I'm always like, look, I'll email you the resources, I'm all for
Yeah.
educating and
Because
stuff.
if I honestly was that angry about something, I'd go on a vivid pursuit of working out why I'm so angry about that thing. Does that make sense? I'd want to know what it is inside of myself that's drawn me so far away from it that I want to find out who those people are, why they feel that certain way, what they're about, and then I might find a common ground in some way. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That is genuinely a person you feel like you are, I am. I want to know what it is that's not working and then venture with it.
Well, people just don't like change.
They don't, or other. If
Yeah.
it's something that they're not and it's not in their parameters, that's it. It's definitely not going to work. There's no possibility.
That's the interesting thing is I begin my rap career at 3 years old with dinosaurs,
Yeah.
and I find myself in the peak of my rap career with dinosaurs.
Yeah.
People who refuse to adapt to this meteorite of change that keeps on hitting the earth. Yeah. So it's
This
full
is-
circle. Yeah.
Dude, this is brilliant. This is such a podcast. The energy you have. Are you thinking about doing your own podcast, or have you got any time in your life for anything like that?
I would love to do it.
I would listen to you forever. Maybe not to bed.
It's
I'm wired. What do I do?
It's not like I'm going to freestyle everyone to sleep. So yeah, I would love to do a podcast. Like my best mate in London is Rashid, who I co-host a night with, Spoken Word Sundaes, and he's like a foil. He's very serious, very, very intelligent, very articulate. He could talk for ages, but he's really easy to kind of like take the piss out of. So I would do a podcast with him, and we keep talking about it.
Have you come with, like, as you say, unique selling points and niches for this podcast?
Well, like, he
'Cause
does. It's
you
almost
clearly
like-
like to shake it up.
It's kind of, we would do a podcast version of our poetry night, which is a poetry night created for people that don't like poetry nights. Like, hint, I don't really like poetry nights. I'll have to whisper that. Like, sometimes I go to it and it can be so inaccessible. I once went to one in Romania, which is my favourite one ever, because it was the most inaccessible thing. It wasn't just that it was in Romanian, because that was all translated. So I was like, it was like a poetry Olympics. I was representing the UK. And the other guy from the UK, he just stood on stage, yeah, and I'm not joking. He just screamed for 20 minutes. He just went, ah.
Conceptual art.
Yeah, and at the end he's like, did you get it? And I was like, yeah, I got that. In my head, like, what the
Yeah.
So it was like, poetry
Dude,
could be
I was
so...
with you every step of the way.
Poetry can be so inaccessible and so
Yeah.
closed off. And it's like, I don't want to go to a night where I feel that it's like the exclusivity of it all and the self-importance that some poets can have is, I am the poet, I will now speak, and the audience be subservient to my will.
Why is it so ripe in poetry? What has happened?
Well,
Because
poetry is a chance to talk about yourself, isn't it?
yeah,
So
you can be quite
when it
self-indulgent
gives you,
in that.
it's so inclusive that it sometimes can become exclusive. It's
Yeah.
gone full circle.
Yeah.
So it's like in this kind of sphere. I do love poetry, but some of the nights can sometimes be virtue signaling
Yes.
or kind of these like what I would call trauma porn, where people compete to tell the worst story about themselves.
Perpetuates it, doesn't it?
And it's like, I mean, even the other night, I was just at a thing, and then some guy just got naked and was just walking around the
I
crowd.
know.
I was like,
2 years
that's
ago.
actually a crime.
2 years ago, I did that gig in London. It was in a dungeon.
Yeah.
And he
It's
did.
the same guy.
He got naked.
Call the police on him.
And that was my first ever gig. My dad's been to watch me perform.
Michael,
ever.
what are you involved with? What
And
is
he
this
came
cult?
with. So we're on the farm now, and he came with his mate, who's like a proper farmer builder, got like acres in Ashbourne
Right, you seen
somewhere.
this on the farm, yeah.
And he just we all went to London, and we got way too drunk way too quick. So it was about 12 in the afternoon, lads' day out, and then I just thought, oh, what else can we do apart from get drunk? I like poetry. Found a poetry night. Oh, it's only an hour, well, half an hour away. We'll get a tram. Got there, go downstairs, and I got to that level where will I remember my words? I'm just a bit all over the place.
If not, just take clothes off.
Yeah, I did. I got up, performed. I performed okay. I was kind of happy. And Jeff, big up Jeff, the
Jeff.
farmer, he's the most stereotypical farmer you will ever meet in your life. Actually, give me props. He was going, dude, I'm really proud of you. Well played. I've never knew you could do that, because I used to work for him, and he hated me because I was a drill. I'd just be smashing things up. Couldn't dig. He had to come and like show me the technique. He just didn't think I had anything about me. So he was proud for a bit. That was at the break. Went back down. First act in. Knob out.
I know where you were, and I know what happened.
And then he just turned to me and goes, "This is what you're into." So yeah, that was hilarious.
Yeah,
man,
so
but-
poetry, all power to everyone.
Yeah. Knob out.
But yeah, the poetry night I wanted to do, like one of the first rules was no one can get their knob out.
Yeah. Okay. Oh mate.
Like it was just one of
Boring.
the. Call me a prude, but it's just
Puritan.
everyone like just even if you just got underpants on, that's fine. So, and a lot of my mates, for rightly or wrongly, definitely wrongly, are kind of laddie.
Yeah.
They want to go with us to football matches. They don't want to come to poetry. But I wanted to create poetry that is like, you are also included here, and I think that's important for men to go into spaces where other men are being vulnerable and to see that and maybe have that change their mind, because otherwise people aren't going into poetry spaces at all. So, we would have, we'd have a lot of games like the one that we played.
Brilliant.
We do this. We always call my mum. That's one of the features. We just call her and we ask for a bit of motherly advice to the crowd.
You're gonna make me dead jealous.
Yeah,
now.
and
I
she
want to
just-
be in London.
And yeah, so my mum will just say some random stuff like, "Hello, crowd. Hope everyone's well, and just be nice to each other and pray." And then everyone will then give an applause and be like, "Thank you to my mum."
Do you
And then-
film this now?
Yeah. Well, no. It's like
Get
it
me
sounds.
down, man.
It
I'd love
sounds.
to film
Again,
this.
I'm talking about like how it's not pretentious. It's still in a cocktail bar in Shoreditch. So,
Yeah.
we're not fully out the woods yet. We're still in kind of hipsterville.
But it's outside.
Yeah. And then we got one thing with Rashid where he does Rashid's film reviews. Now he thinks it's him talking about films and really in-depth analysis that is kind of revelatory for the listeners. It's not. It's because his film reviews are so kind of funny, yeah, that everyone wants to listen to them. People go just to hear his film reviews. So he'll be like, yeah, he's really earnest. So I went to see Aquaman. So Aquaman, and he spends half the time just telling you who's in it, but getting it kind of wrong. Like, this the guy from Game of Thrones. I want to say, what's his name? Jason. Yeah, he's the guy in Moana, I think, but not The Rock. But Moana looks like. And you're like half an hour. You're like 10 minutes into this film review. You've learned nothing about the film. At the end, he'll be like, yeah, in Aquaman there was like a lot of water. Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot and people love it. It's like, yeah, like.
Please tell me he rates them as well. He gives
Yeah, star
Good,
rating.
good.
So I mean that's a section. We do a whole freestyle section where it's like an agony ant thing. Someone will I say, right, I need the name of one animal. We can maybe even do it. I don't know how much you want to mess with the structure, but
Dude, we're in already now. This is the Muzzy Foley show. We're on your structure now, son. We're in.
So like normally what we do is like you get like the name of one animal and a problem that the animal has, and then I've got to do a freestyle about it might be a squirrel with erectile dysfunction.
Yes.
Yeah, and then I'll have to like do advice and a rap for this squirrel, and what's
Do you
gonna
get a
happen.
beat on again as well?
Yeah, so you would get a beat on.
I reckon it's time for this. That might be the finisher. Remember that.
I'll remind you. Yeah. So you could say, with the squirrel, I can't remember what it could be. This is not an obstacle for us. He might have erectile dysfunction, but he doesn't have a problem with nuts. There you go. So Squirrel humour.
do you watch a lot of podcasts yourself? And are you the ones you go into are the ones with fancy bits and daft bits and segments?
I rarely watch podcasts. The other day I watched a podcast with Joe Rogan on North Korea. That was the most recent podcast I watched.
Dude, I know the one you're on about.
Yeah. I think I got it because you shared it. Yeah,
Really?
and it was like the children eat the rats eat the children, everybody dies.
Yeah.
And I was like,
I don't know if I want this in my life.
I was like, this is not my career choice. For example,
Dude. Yeah, because I have, again, Lonely Mikey on the farm, poor old me, but I have it as like a mate in the background.
Yeah.
Because Joe Rogan's go for like 4 hours. So I just pop it in my pocket and I've got noise there, but I really like listening to stories. And when it's 4 or 5 hours, you can just clock in and out.
Yeah.
And you don't have to be intently involved at all point. And you go, oh, I like the MMA, I'll tune in here, I'll listen to what fight was on. Fucking hell, I stayed up for Jake Paul last night. Oh, mate. Why did I do that to myself?
I'm not a fan of this new celebrity.
This is
boxing
awful to
thing.
happen. But that's how I like my podcast is you can keep popping in and out. And particularly with Rogan's, it's people I would never in my life expect to listen to. It's all just as random as that. And then every so often he'll have a golden nugget of a great guest that I'm really excited about. But really it's a neuroscientist, and then you hear some of his comedian mates to the fighters. It's just so eclectic.
Yeah, well, it's like yourself. I imagine the range of guests that you know
It's
have
been
sat
wild.
in this seat. You know,
you have been.
if you could get all these people on the same bus.
You're in a top 3 position at the minute, mate.
Oh,
Keep
well,
fighting your way up there.
no,
Yeah, I'm really enjoying
I'll take
it.
bronze medal.
Yeah, you're okay with that.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
feel like you would be.
Well, it's it's a starting point, isn't it?
Let's talk a little bit about that though. The celebrities in boxing at the minute, if you've been keeping up with it. Because last night, do you know what? I am an idiot because I keep doing it to myself. I will, most of the time in life, make mistakes and I will learn from them. So I'll watch something, go, that was a pile of shite, and move on and not go back. But for some reason, Dana White or any of the boxing promoters just know how to tickle me or get me going, and I just have to watch it. So the first one I watched where I knew this is not for me, I think it was Jake Paul again. Who was he fighting before? Askren.
Yeah,
Yes,
someone like
yes.
yeah.
So-
it's always like retired UFC guys.
Brother,
Fighting,
did you watch the show?
Last night?
No, the Askren one.
No, I didn't see it, but what happened?
Oh my life. So it's 4 hours, no, maybe 5 hours long, maybe 6. Because it ended up being a whole concert.
That's a lot of build-up, yeah.
6 hours, and it had 5% of boxing. Literally 5%. They had a slap fight at one stage. They just got all these crazy celebrity people in, but the majority was Snoop Dogg getting high as a kite.
I would watch that.
He was, yeah, but I'm not watching it for that, so I didn't know I was getting that. And I tuned in, and then I don't use Twitter, but I know Twitter's a bit more for people having debates and being involved and talking. Rather, you got Facebook, which seems nonsense now.
Yeah, it's like everyone's grand.
And then you've got
being
Instagram,
racist.
which is just I kind of like Instagram. It's pictures and videos, and I can deal with that. But I knew Twitter, there'd be people talking about it. So I got 2 hours in, and I was so gobsmacked with. It kills me. So you've got Snoop Dogg getting high. That's fine. There's a bit of polarity there against sport and drugs and whatever. I get it. I'm cool. But then there's another guy come on. You know the rapper, and I really don't mind lyrics as wild as this and doing whatever. I'm not a prude either. I'm not a Puritan. But you've got a guy on there with all these girls with G-strings on, shaking around, and he's going, "You my bitch life, you my hoe for life, you my bitch what?" And I'm going, oh no, because who's watching Jake Paul?
Yeah,
It's
kids.
gotta be 13, 14, 15
That's his
year
fan
olds.
base.
And I swear to God, this guy came on, and I thought, do you know what I'll do? I'd be a bit of a prude and a bit of a Puritan. I'll write down a couple of his lyrics, put them on Twitter, and just see what people think. And everyone was saying a similar thing. It was just chaos. It was the worst event to ever happen to sport. And I wholeheartedly believe that. So I was so traumatized by watching that. And then the worst fight ever happening, which was basically Ben Askren, who'd not trained a thing, injured, at the worst shape of his life, getting knocked out by this horrible kid that just keeps promoting awful things. So I think, right, that isn't for me. But last night, I get home, I come from a night
sucked
out,
into it
and I
still.
just went, because the way they did it was all boxing undercards this time. So I thought, at least I'm going to see Tommy Fury fighting a few others, and I love my boxing. That was sort of, other than poetry and so on, that was my identity, was boxer. So I really always gravitate to it, but these events are not anything to do with boxing.
No, not at all.
Nothing to do with it. And I'm not being a snoot towards boxing, or this this figure of they need to keep to their thing, we need to keep to ours. I like that it's brought a bit of attention towards boxing in a certain way, but it's just not nice attention. It's the kids that, you know, I was training when I went to boxing, and I try to get kids in, and the discipline that they get, and this when they come in with a bit of a cockiness, and then they get it quickly beaten out of them. Not in a bad way either. We don't turn them up against a 15-year-old fights a little cocky 11-year-old and we smack him about, lad. You show them adversity, so you get them puffing, you know what I mean? You get them out of breath, then you show them how hard it can be, and you know, they're so relaxed after it and so on. This is a great aspect of the sport, but this is all just jeering, getting angry at one another, money.
It's for clicks. Everything is for clicks, dude. Now. I mean, I'm not even 30, but I already sound like an old man. Like, I'm going to be sending emails to some kids coming up now, be like, get off this YouTube thing. Some of us have been doing this quietly enough. But look, it's the way that things are heading, and we can be bitter about it, or we can accept it. But either way, it's not going to change. Like, boxing is just the latest victim of a whole culture that is all about being like hyper visible. You know, no one wants to be in the background anymore. It's all about, you need to see me doing this, and I need to be seen all the time, and you need to, even if I'm watching something else, you need to see me watching it. It's like,
have you ever noticed yourself slipping into it for self? Have you been taken by the beast?
Well, I probably, my girlfriend reckons to this date that I am, right.
Might be if you're tripping.
She's she's disapproving of it, and she's right, like always. But like the other day, right, I went to. Have you ever been to Hackney Wick in London?
Not yet. No.
Right, so Hackney Wick used to be kind of like a factory, just one big like canal side factory, warehouses, And like anywhere in London, that becomes prime real estate. The warehouses get converted so that private school kids can go live there off their parents' money and do drugs in a warehouse and have these wild parties and say, we don't need a P45, we're just gonna our thing. This is our thing. So that is what a lot of Hackney Wick was. And then the next stage of the regeneration is actually, houses, flats where young professionals move in, and once you get that happening to these places, you start getting the bars and stuff like that. And at one of these bars, so I don't know who goes to these places, clearly me, because I was there, and the bar served canned wine.
Canned wine?
Wine in a can.
No,
I'm not joking.
Throw that in the bin.
So
Get it in the bin.
I made a little joke about this, and like on Instagram, and like, who would buy canned wine? Me. Who would serve canned wine? Them. Now apparently I've got such a reach that the company that makes the canned wine reached out to me and were like, don't say that, don't do that, like, our wine's very nice. I was like, no, I'm sorry, it actually was really nice, I was just joking. But it's like somehow I've managed to find myself in this position of being hyper visible, so the things I do, people watch and respond to and react to.
Wow.
So it's like, the other day, I just put like some footage of me on a night out with my girlfriend. I lost 400 followers.
For doing what?
Because I had a girlfriend. I assume that's why. It can't be like my dance moves, which
I was expecting like a really bad joke or something to come, but no,
it's not like I like outed myself as something, like and was deserving of being cancelled. It was just people like, nah,
done,
not for me.
No, I've not got a chance anymore.
So it's like, and like people are following because they expect me to be a certain type of way, and I think that I'm not just this teacher who just speaks in nursery rhyme. There's a lot more aspects to my character, and people are quite disappointed when I am multifaceted. People want me to be a two-dimensional cartoon character that only acts to the script they've written in their head.
But for a lot of people, that script that people have wrote for them and created that perception, they suffer strongly with mental health because they're trying to live out that script. They're trying to become that. Have you ever felt that, and has it affected your mental health, where people have expected this certain way about you and you thought, I have got to live it up a little bit, or where you become, because you seem like a very happy guy and a really nice person. So have you always just said, no, I'm not going to get lost in it. I'm going to make sure happiness is my key factor?
Oh, other people's narratives have never influenced me in what they think I should do and how I should be. But certainly I have my own narratives, which when I've failed to live up to them, has destroyed my mental health.
Can I ask what they are?
Yeah, so, I mean, I had a certain vision, like most people do, of how your future is going to unfold. You might, you go to school, you might go to university if you want, or you might go get a job, and you then meet someone, and then you have a house, and then a marriage, and then a child, and then a family. For me, it didn't happen that way. I had something very unexpected happen, which was to become a father.
Right. Okay.
And I wanted that so much to be in the way that I envisaged it, in a family setting with someone I knew.
What a story. Let's dive.
Yeah, I know. So when that happened, and that a lot of stuff happened around that's just not what I wanted, and I realized that I was not resilient, because I had a good education in one way. Academically, I could tell you about the fall of Rome. I could tell you about the great schism of Catholicism and the Protestants. All right? I could tell you about these things. I couldn't tell you when your life falls apart how to put it back together.
Really?
Or how to respond to when your life gets shattered.
Yeah.
What do you do in that situation? And I was left in the mindset of, you can no longer or ever have the life you thought you were going to have. So this life is void.
Wow.
And it was that level,
It's giving me shivers.
Yeah.
I've got goosebumps then.
And when you're in a situation where you literally feel like you're at the end of the road, and if you continue with your road, it's only going somewhere that you don't want it to be. So why continue?
Game over.
And so I was trapped in that mindset completely because I was ill-educated in the kind of education that matters, which is knowing how to respond to trauma and trouble. And we often as men aren't given that vocabulary. It's not, we might have a dictionary and a thesaurus, but when something happens like that, we have no words for it. And if you don't have the words for it, how are you going to talk about it? How are people going to listen to it and understand you? So I was feeling all these things, and my life was like the plan that is now a bit of paper that you're going to like, what do I do with that? Do I unfold it, recrinkle out, and try writing again? No, I'm going to throw that in the bin.
Right.
But you only get one life, so then when your life's in the bin...
Yeah.
But anyway, so...
have you wrote this as a poem before? Because that was pretty powerful. The imagery you created then, I thought, that's stunning.
I've kind of like... I have done it in a lot of like... My first album was all about this, really, which is called Excommunication. Now, the process of excommunication is when a Christian does something and they are no longer allowed to be a Christian. So this is a play on my name, right?
I was just going to say, or a Christian.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So I felt that I completely had lost my identity, which did revolve around kind of happiness and things going okay. Even if my parents didn't have a great relationship, I don't think I was going into the world necessarily, in a terrible way. So, but I was not immunized against any trauma, really. And so when it happened, that's it. That life is gone. Christian is no longer a Christian anymore. Excommunicated. And once you're excommunicated, that's an irreversible process. And then my second album kind of works on it in mental health called Happy Hour, right? And it's exactly 1 hour long. And I interviewed loads of people of what does it mean to be happy. And what I found out is most people aren't. Most people aren't happy because, again, in the narrative that we tell ourselves, we need all of these things to be happy. But it's unattainable. You can never actually get to that destination.
Yeah.
So it's not about looking for happiness like it's this treasure in a chest that we can eventually unlock and we just have to dig it up and find the X on the map.
Eckhart Tolle, that is. He talks about do you know Eckhart Tolle?
No.
He wrote a book, The Power of Now.
Right, okay.
And again, the first 5 pages in is a homeless person and he's sat on this box and people keep going by with money and they say, he says, can I have some money? And everyone keeps saying, no, no, no. And then one day, this guy goes past and he says, can I have some money? And he goes, I've not got any money, but what is in your box? And the guy says, well, I don't know, just sit on it. And then he opens it up and it's full of treasure. It's full of the money. He was always sat on it. It was always there, a part of him. But it was going inside and deep and not being reflective of that. So that's where the book goes into. And how he discovers his treasure.
That's exactly it. So, I mean, I've been speaking in analogy and metaphor here, but we know what I'm saying. You know, I was suicidal. And I had to go, I was referred to the wing of a hospital who talked to you about suicide for a long time, really. So for maybe, I don't know how many sessions, it all seems this blur. All I remember is kind of a water cooler. There's a water cooler in the reception area of this hospital. And you watch the bubbles kind of just rise up and pop, and that's all you do for ages. And you're not alone in the room. There's other men in there. And the way the men sit is like a question mark. They're kind of curved over, and no one is looking at each other, all looking at their feet. And there's this pile of magazines that no one reads, because no one cares about magazines at this point, because everyone is just kind of folded up in their own problems. And the biggest movement that ever happens is someone walking across, pouring from the water and like slowly drinking it. And I just used to watch those bubbles rise and pop, and that they kind of reminded me of how I felt, because I felt like I was on the rise. Yeah, I just got popped, and then we just like drained out on the floor. I don't know.
Wow.
So it takes a lot to.
Guess what I'm listening to tonight? Yeah. The whole archive.
Yeah. So there you go. Yeah, it is linear. It tells these stories. So I think that, to answer your question, am I always happy? I'm certainly on a road now where I've learned to adapt and I've learned to accept, and that is the most important thing. And I don't think I can ever get that low again now, because it's like, once you've had that experience, now I know I've done it once. Whatever happens to me now, you got through it once, so you can do it again. And I think that's the, something like that had to happen, because now
you had a toolbox with nothing in it.
Yeah. And now I'm well educated. I am educated in a way that I wasn't before.
And I'd put that to a point of like gain wisdom. I think wisdom has something other. And it is through experience. You've got to live life to get to that point. Yeah. And you've gained that. But because my thought was, are you happy? I was going social media based, because it creeps into everybody, and it can distort you. It can turn you into somebody you're not, and so on. But then I think what most people need is to go through suffering in some regard, in some way, to find out who they truly are. I've got a poem called Falling, and mine suicidal time and really painful time came from a breakup, really, because I've always looked for validation, particularly in women, because I've lived in a household where I've not really had any love, to be complete truthful. My mum always says, to this day still, but as a kid, imagine this, but she said, I never wanted kids. I don't like kids. I never wanted a kid. You were for your dad. And that's just a truth that she's always put forward to me. So I had that.
It's very honest.
Yeah, it's real.
Not the kind of honesty that.
And then from that, I got quite a big kid, so I compensated by eating a lot of the time. Went to school. That wasn't fun. So I was just horrendously bullied for being a big fat kid, going home, just never having love. So then when I eventually got this girlfriend when I was travelling, I put everything into it.
Yeah, that becomes the epitome of everything you've ever wanted.
My whole existence was that. So when she said no, and she actually, the worst thing she did, I went to work one day, got home, and there was a letter on my pillow, and she took everything and just said, you're not going to see me again. She's seen way too many Hollywood films. Who
does that in Ripley?
It was so... Well, no, because she was... we met in South Africa.
Right, okay.
So it was when I was travelling.
Still a bit too Hollywood, though.
Literally,
but that will break
she just moved back, changed number, never saw her again, because we were saving up to go travelling again to like Thailand and so on. But as most of my mates went through breakups, they kind of were okay. They'd had archetypal living spaces where mum plays lovey-dovey mum and dad's giving this sort of strong authority bit. And some of my best mates, I look at their family, I go, you lucky bugger.
Yeah. but then it's never as...
Yeah, we've had great chats about that, actually, because the grass and greener and stuff, and me and my mates have had really interesting, depthly chats about it. But yeah, for me, after that moment where I completely snapped and I've literally folded, it took me months and months and months to get out of it. Whereas I was saying before, my friends could have a breakup and then 3 weeks later they're with another girl or something like that. Still not healthy, but it didn't seem to affect them, where that really did me. So yeah, I got to my suicidal point. I got to that, what is the point? And it was substances that actually did something for me. And I've told that story before. I can tell you whenever. And I openly say it on here because I think truths are important, however you attain that truth. And for me, going through all that experience, I got this poem called Falling. I hit the bottom of this pit.
What's the first two lines of the poem? Do you remember it?
It's like the first bit's, he goes mad, you know. He goes mad. The phone call I received that day was the moment I started to fall. I screamed and shouted on my way down, but no one would answer my call. And that was like, she gave me one call, told me it's gone as well. That was it. I'm changing my number, and then I could never get back in touch again after that.
So there's no closure.
Nothing. So I was just in this abyss pot, like a pit of nothingness, and falling down. And all the way through the poem, I had somebody draw it out actually, and there's like boobs and substances and stuff, because that's what I went into. I was just trying to have sex with everybody, just trying to consume myself with friends and people, not the stuff I needed. But that was it. I actually hit the bottom. The bottom was a big trip, to be honest, quite literally. And that I got arrested for. I had a tasering experience. This is all literal. This isn't imagery. This is no metaphor. But the whole poem's a metaphor. But that was it, because I planned how to kill myself. I had it all mapped out, all done. But there was something that hit me rock solid, and then open my eyes again. But I say to my friends, like, I don't think everybody needs to go that low. You learn from those people that have hit that bell curve to the bottom. I think as some people are falling, you can learn from others, and you can take advice and take it on, and still make your mistakes and grow from them. But you don't have to go to the depths. The people that have been to the depths, and I know a few, we've been them ourselves, we can hopefully keep our hands up and prop them up a little bit. So, and
I guess everyone's depth is different, isn't it? You know, like literally our depth perception.
Yeah,
what might be rock bottom for someone might be shallower for other people.
Yeah, like looking bad on a certain day could be as low a point for somebody, couldn't it?
Oh, I would envy their life, you know.
As opposed, like that Rogan podcast you listen to, where you've got that woman from North Korea, to me having a breakup. Even on retrospect, there you go.
Yeah, it's like a breakup in North Korea would be the least of your worries if you know you're trying to eat a rat. You know, when life gives you lemons, get tasered.
No, there's a story there.
No, that will shock you into action. You know,
it will come out in some form more so down the line, and again, I don't tell that at primary schools. I turn it into a little bit more of a Disney-esque vibe. So then I got a shock, and it shook me up, and I knew what to do.
Peace, man. I got tasered by a policeman.
Yeah. Honestly, I loved your honesty in that, man, because I was going to that base level of, does social media sort of give you hindrance and affect your happiness? But I really enjoy that.
Well, that's the thing. You know, social media is superficial, isn't it?
Yeah.
So if we have a superficial talk about social media, it will only ever be about those face pictures. And yeah, on Instagram, I'm not doing posts like I'm so sad. Yeah. I'm doing posts like, who makes you drink canned wine? So yeah, you only give a certain image of yourself. But then the trouble is other people see the images and they're like, he's so happy, his life is so perfect.
Yeah,
you know, he's just drinking canned wine in regenerated canal side locations. It's not like that, you know. I also ordered a craft ale. So,
but I suppose because you've hit those levels and you've been there, people like that, you tend to notice they can conduct themselves quite well on that superficial place of social media, because you think, this is all a lie. There's nothing of real truth in this, and I know what pain looks like. I'm not going to let myself get wrapped up in this daft abyss.
Yeah, you learn. Yeah, you learn like what is.
That's the wisdom I was talking about.
Yeah, that's wisdom, isn't it? You learn what is important. Because I mean, even at the time, I put a humorous spin on things, but that laid my own trap really, because I'd say to my friends, I'd be like, I feel really low at the moment. And they'd be like, where's the joke? And even when I was trying to tell people that I was sad, people were looking for the punchline. Or if there wasn't one, they thought it was a dry joke or an abstract joke. So because I had spent my life creating this persona where I was only quote unquote funny.
Yeah.
And I was
Funny
only
Foley.
quote unquote like lighthearted. So that was the image that I sculpted for myself. So people could only see that image. And the shadow of that image, no one could like see on the ground. No one would want to engage with that. So when I tried to talk to people, they were like, either didn't notice or didn't know what to say. So it was a very different. And now I think people, because I've done articles on this, and I call it the problem with Hercules, right? So the problem with Hercules is that Hercules was the strongest of the demigods. He's also a bit of a dick, and he was so strong. There was nothing. He
wasn't in the film.
Like, they sanitized him in the film. The Disney version is not the real myth. The real myth, the oxymoron of the real myth. Yeah, I actually knew the myth before it was on TV. So
wasn't the truth behind that line?
yeah, exactly. It wasn't a true made-up story. In the myth, right, he's the strongest person. He can do anything. There's nothing that he can't fix physically. But then he sees the world through that lens. He sees any problem, I'll fix it. Your friend is sad. Oh well, who made you sad? I'll headbutt them. All right? You go out on a night out in Newcastle, you see the same guys. All right?
Yeah.
People who purely see strength as a physical phenomenon.
Yeah.
All right? And this reoccurs in our world, right? This reoccurs with Chris Benoit. Now, Chris Benoit, his nickname was the Pegasus Kid, a.k.a. Hercules. He was the world's strongest man. What happened to him? He killed himself with a bench press, and he killed his wife and children. Who did that first?
He killed himself with a bench press. I didn't know that. I knew the wife and children part. But...
Yeah, the pure epitome of a man dying at the hands of their own muscles, right?
So what did he drop it on his neck?
Yeah, so he lifts it up. Someone that only
and had probably like 3 plates aside.
Something that only he could lift, something that only he could drop. The epitome of physical strength. Because he saw strength in that way. Where is our conception of mental strength? All right? And as boys, we're not taught that. No one's going into classrooms really. I mean, we're trying and saying you need to be mentally strong. You need to be resilient. Because when I got sad, I was just like, well, I'll go to the gym. And I'll get bigger muscles, and I'll bench press, and I'll keep bench pressing. Like, sadness is this weight that I can lift and just keep getting that off my body. If I push it further enough away, I can hold it at arm's length.
Yeah.
But that's not how sadness works at all. It isn't how hard you can punch. And again, as children...
It's a Rocky Balboa.
Yeah. Not how hard you can hit.
It's how hard you can get hit and keep getting knocked.
But literally, when I was... The first chapter of... I've done this as a book, but like... I've read back the book and I'm like, it shouldn't be my first book. It's a bit too out there for a first book. AKA, I think it might be bad. But the first chapter of the book is about when I was 14, again in the mean streets of Jersey, the fair would come and visit once every summer. All right, and there was this ride, not even a ride actually. I wouldn't go on the rides. I'm too scared. So all the boys wanted to impress the girls. That was how it was. Okay. How do you impress a girl at 14? You show them you're fearless. So how do you do that in the context of the fair? You go on the fastest, highest ride and you say, look at me, I am not afraid of either heights or speed. Okay? Now, I was afraid of both.
I'm so hot right now.
Yeah. And they're like, oh my God, like, look how fast that boy is traveling with a seatbelt on a safe thing.
But it could open up.
I was afraid of heights and speed, and actually girls. So, I was involved in this love triangle, which was just fear.
Yeah.
All right? I like the trigonometry of fear. So I'm in the middle of this. I'm like, right, how do I impress girls? So there is this thing called the punch bag, the electronic punch bag. Have you seen these?
Yeah,
They come on the lever. And it had like a rusty lightning bolt.
The alpha male machine.
Yeah, exactly. It had this rusty lightning bolt down the side, like greased lightning. And people would step up and they'd like look around. They'd make sure everyone was watching. And a semicircle would form around it. You know, like the Greek Senate.
Yeah.
And here, people would prove who they truly were. And they didn't need to do it in a metaphorical way. You'd get a score.
Yeah.
You'd literally get a number, and that's how you would measure yourself.
Instant
so someone would
gratification.
punch up, and they would get a score of like 400.
Yeah.
Like...
That's pretty low,
okay.
actually, man.
Yeah. So they're mid-table. No one speaks to them. They go home. All right? And I remember one time, like, loads of girls were watching. I was like, I just need to get the highest score, because the highest score is the most man, and the most man is the most loved by girls. In this worldview of a teenager. All right? I've got my best tracksuit on from JD that I begged my mum to buy. All right, I think it was Mackenzie because I saw other boys wearing Mackenzie. Yeah. It was silver. This was my chainmail. I step up. I'm like, this is my moment. In my head, I'm building up for this. I strike that punch bag as hard as I can. Now, if you don't hit it hard, it gives kind of a mournful polyphonic ringtone sound. And I remember the sound that the punch bag gave was like a sigh. It was like it went like, and I was looking, and then it flashed up, and it like you wait like the first number, you wait for the first number to come up, but I was like, there's no number coming up on that side. And it was just coming up in double, and it was like 42. And everyone was just like, look at you. And I was like, oh my God, I am the worst man here. I am literally not even, I can never be a man with a score of 42. And the guy who came next like punched like 4,000.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I am 40. I don't even in percentage terms. But then I remember the same guy that actually did that. He was also, remember I told you I went to prison and taught. I'm not joking. He went to prison.
Way.
So people that purely conceive of strength in a physical way, it leads you nowhere good. And what happens to Hercules at the end of all this? Now, Hercules kills his wife and children as well at the beginning. So he has to, because he has a fit of rage. He's kind of controlled by a really evil stepmom. And she's like, you're going to do some mad stuff, kill your wife and children. He's like, yeah, I'm that angry. And then as a penance, he goes on 12 labours. And at the end of his 12th labour, he has an affair. And his spurned ex-lover sends him a shirt, okay, and it's dipped in poison. And then his current girl, who he's kind of run off with, is like, you don't need to wear presents from your ex-lover and stuff. But he's so wrapped up in his own myth, he's like, she sends me a present, I'm going to wear it. He puts it on and he bursts into flames.
Wow.
And he can't tear this shirt off, right? And he begs for it to stop, and he doesn't. And eventually, he builds a big pyre, like a bonfire, from all these pine trees he's ripped up.
Wow.
And then he begs for Zeus, his dad, to kill him, to send a lightning bolt. So what happens to Hercules at the end of his journey? He kills himself. And that's how he finally is free of his pain, through suicide. So his journey is one of physical strength that ultimately ends where all of these conceptions of physical strength end, with death at your own hand. So the myth of Hercules is... This is not how Disney did it. Disney did not do it like that. And this is the really problem with Hercules.
The girl got to him, really liked his strength. She was dazzled by it. And that's what being a man is all about.
Because, he had never learned to work out his problems with any other way. He would headbutt everyone. He would, there's even occasions where he goes around to his friends and they're like, would you like... There's like a group of centaurs. He's got a friend called Floas. And he needs help on a mission to kill a boar. So he stops off. And he says, Floas, can I stay the night? It's like an Airbnb for him. And Floas says, yes, of course. And then Hercules says, what's that on the shelf? That's some wine. And Floas is like, yeah, but you can't really drink it. It's more kind of like decorative. It was given by Dionysus, the god of wine. It's really kind of expensive stuff. Hercules is like, go on, just give me a sip. And he's like, no, it is sacred wine. Hercules is like, give me a sip of wine. Starts becoming more forceful. Floas is like, right, I've got to be the host. I'll give him a sip. He opens this bottle of wine. All the other centaurs start coming to the mouth of the cave because they're like, what the hell's going on? You can't open that wine. That's our wine. That's collective wine. They're socialists. This is village wine.
And they've all got COVID.
Yeah. This tough guy cannot just come in here and ask for wine. You can't just give it to him because you're his mate. That's our wine too. Hercules starts being like, you lot, F off. Right, this is my wine. So one of them throws like a pine cone at him. What does Hercules do? Yeah, what does Hercules do? He slaughters the entire village.
Right.
Even his friend dies. This is the kind of guy we're dealing with. You can't invite him to a dinner party because he'll kill everyone. And then eat all the dessert.
Where have you read this? Where literally...
This is the myth of Hercules. This is one of his 12 labours on the Erymanthian boar. This is labour number 6, I believe. The Erymanthian boar. So you can read these. These are almost children's stories.
So have this put you off Disney then, really, because of how they depict things? Because I suppose, like we were talking about religion before the podcast... You can't show
the real Hercules
to
children.
Well, of course. But, they do still manage to portray he thought it was all strength in there, but there was also doing it for people. And there's good to be distracted if you want to. You've got to really search for it. But I've got Disney on my arm still.
I like Disney.
In Disney, there's still that element where you can take away a beautiful message or something of depth or something of wisdomful. But do you also not like how they represent certain things?
Well,
and
you
where
can look at
takes
it with the eyes of a child, which is wonderment and astonishment, and I love Disney. Growing up, I used to love it.
It just gets a bad rap. A lot
Yeah.
of people go, "Oh, Disney this, Disney that," and
I don't know. It depends whether you want to be cynical. Like, if I'm not being cynical, I say Pocahontas, I love the film.
Yeah.
If I'm being a cynical guy, I'm like, oh yeah, Native American genocide's fine. Because
Yeah,
they got
okay,
married in
okay,
the end.
beautiful.
But it's
Yeah.
like, you're like,
That's
it
what we're
depends,
saying
like, if
about
you wanna
religion.
be-
It's on the individual, on how you want to perceive something and how you want to look in and take the message and the metaphor.
Yeah, and we certainly live in a culture where everyone is really quick to look back at something that was created.
I think they
be
just
like,
want to sound smart, though. Do you know, a lot of people, when they go, "Oh, Disney this," and then pick a film and then go, "You know what it represents, though?" And you go, "Well, okay, but..." Because again, a lot of my friends go to the Jungle Book and they talk about the racism within it and so on, and I can then get on like the monkeys and they're saying, "I want to be like you," like the man cubs and so on. But I look at the Jungle Book and it's when Blue the Bear's doing the bare necessities, and he goes into a breakdown. He says, "Let me tell you something, little Bridget. If you're looking for something that can't be found, when you find out you can live without it, go along not thinking about it." That's a lovely message for me, because I'm going, yeah, if you're always looking for messages and answers, when you realise you can live without it, just be breezy, bare necessities, go back. And I've gone, that's a lovely message. You can choose what suits. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, so I mean, again, with the lens of Disney and stuff, it's probably easier for us to look at because, we've not been the victim of any genocides or, like as two white guys on a bus. It's very easy to say, there's nothing in there that's harmful or anything. But I do think there's some things you've got to look back on that were created that it's like Little Britain. I watched that back and I'm like, oh, that's not really right, like some of the stuff, like comedy that's just punching down and down and down.
I get
but at the time, growing up, I was like, this is the funniest thing I have ever seen. So some of it is about maturity.
Yeah, but understanding it by that time, and so I think for me,
context.
Yeah, context is huge. And again, when say in that time where they were ripping down statues and so on, it was very powerful, and even that can be a moment of time that's now history and documented, and we can look back at that then. There was a time where I was in South Africa and I went to this really small little town, and I walked around and it was sort of an art exhibition up, but they were all statues. I remember seeing Hitler and I thought, uh-oh.
What's he doing then?
I'm not sure about this place. And then I think there was Stalin, and I thought, I don't know about this. But then as I'm going about, there's Nelson Mandela, and then there's all historical figures of time.
Right, okay.
And they're all facing one another. And I went to the plaques then, and I looked on it and I went, and each one said the same thing, and it said, the line between good and evil runs through every human heart. And they're all facing one another down. And I thought, what a learning experience that is.
I think Mandela would get a bad press though, being there with Hitler. We have.
Well, he was staring him down, and they were staring one another.
Yeah.
And the line between good and evil runs through every human heart. And that's what I'm saying in the Disney, in the statues, in the everything. Like, I know I've not been through genocide. I know I understand the anger towards many a thing, but I think you can take away what element you want to take away from it. You can go through the angry, evil, hatred-filled, fearful, whatever side, or you could come through a loving, kind, compassionate nature side in any element.
Yeah, you'll see both things at a poetry night.
Yeah.
You'll see somebody who would be like, this
Does that make sense?
Yeah, of course.
Through all of this, I think it's how you depict it, how you conceive it. It is taken away.
Yeah, because it's so easy to get angry, isn't it? When you just look at Britain and stuff, you could just despair sometimes when you look at the leadership and the things that happen. Or you could do something about it. It's very easy to be crushed under the rock of everyone else's incompetence.
Yeah.
But if you can sidestep it and just make a change, and particularly like with people who criticize the work that I do, it's like, well, at least I'm doing something.
Yeah.
You've just got to do something.
I love that attitude. I think that's brilliant.
Because it's very easy just to be like, everyone is terrible and the world is terrible.
Really bad. This shouldn't happen. We need to boycott this. We need to shut this down. And it is virtue signaling.
Yeah. Oh, the performative activism.
That isn't doing anything.
Like, I've got so many people who are just like their whole lives, they've done nothing to help anyone, and they're like, well, I'm actually going to put a black square on Instagram, and yeah, I've done it. Have I ended race? I think I've ended racism. Yeah, it's just loads of people who, and this is the idea of wanting to be seen to be doing things, but not actually wanting to do something. If everyone that put a black square, like donated money or like did something and like worked in your local inner city school, became a teacher, worked with kids who were in families where their parents are in the EDL, all right? Do things like that, and don't just be like, well, actually, I've done my black square. My work is done. Thank God for that. God, that was tough. That was a tough fight.
Well, I put a black square up, but then the amount
but the work you do.
but the amount of shit I got for it, because I did it in the wrong way. I put the wrong hashtag up. I did something dodgy. I don't know what I did, but it was really how quick people are to just jump at you when I thought I was doing my bit, and I do work in my community as well. But they just, no, you're bad. You've done it wrong. You've done it wrong. Chill a minute.
Yeah, sometimes the left can be as authoritarian as the right. Politics is a horseshoe, isn't it? It's like
I'm quite centralist in it. I just want to understand it all, take ideas and go, well, what's best fitting? What really works? And I suppose it's when people speak in absolutes all the time. This is it. This is how it works. I don't think it's sensible. I think the world is just too many people and too much nuance within that, and nothing's going to be perfect.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be Hitler and then Mandela facing off,
Yeah.
Most of life
but
is in the
middle. But in between that, there's a playful area we can work with. There's something.
That's it. I think that you've got to have nuance in life, and you have to be able to see things from other people's point of view without instantly. I'm guilty of it too. I might see like a conservative politician and just be like, "You're a bad person because you're conservative." It's like I need to be more nuanced. I need to try and think, why do you think in that way, and why do I think in a different way, and what are the ways that because we have to work together. So. Looking at life through that way is more helpful than just drawing a line in the sand and say, there be evil, that's the elephant's graveyard, this is Mufasa's kingdom, here be light, there be the hyenas. Like, because the hyenas are saying the same thing.
Because there's always that conversation about like equality and equality of outcome and so on, where people feel, particularly down the right, I've worked really hard for this opportunity, thus I deserve this amount of money and X, Y, and Z. But they're so absolute on that they can't see the nuance of, but these are born into deprived areas, they're not getting the same opportunities, this is where the imbalance comes from. But then again, there is some truth in that when you work really hard, you should warrant more money than somebody in this position. And that there is an element of capitalism in that makes a bit of sense, in my opinion anyway, that I can take truth from. But then I can go, but this socialist method as well has a lot of beauty behind it. Can we take some ideologies and ideas from that and spin with it?
And it's like you have to be able to also... We're not very good as humans, I think, at understanding the limits of our understanding as well and our knowledge. Because when it comes to economics, right, I'm not Adam Smith. I don't know the intricacies of capitalism and the complexities of socialism, and I'm not in a position to say which is better, or like which economic model we should apply. I don't know. And like even like the media and stuff, like there was a coronavirus discussion on Good Morning Britain, and they were like, Christian, could you be a part of this panel? I was like, why? I'm a freestyle rapper.
Thank God somebody said it.
Like what do I know about this whole... I'm not an epidemiologist, ask Chris Whitty what he thinks, right? Because, Chris Whitty is very good at explaining the scientific detail that is appropriate during a pandemic. What am I going to do? Put it in a multisyllabic rap?
Yeah.
On the mic, I'm so sick, I'm the only virus. But that's the only thing I can tell you about coronavirus.
Did you do that?
No, I didn't. Tell me you did that. I didn't do that. I just pretended I had an opinion. But it's that thing. It's like you'll see it on Twitter now. People that were experts about coronavirus are suddenly experts on the policy of Afghanistan. It's like, and they'll say the same thing. They'll be like, "Oh well, what we should have done in Afghanistan is this." It's like, you work in Tesco. That doesn't mean that you can't have an opinion on Afghanistan, but it's not as valid as people who are working in Afghanistan, and it's no one is willing to listen to each other's
Listen
opinion.
is a great word, isn't it?
But also, we shouldn't balance opinion with people who know what they're talking about. Because, like, if I've just done one thing, I am not qualified to talk about Afghanistan, I'm a teacher in East London. Okay, I do not have any expertise. But people will still be on Twitter like, well, what you should do is this.
Huh.
It's like, come on, like, you've got to know the limits of your own knowledge and
Yeah.
be willing to, like, learn stuff. But I think maybe, I don't know, it's pride or it's arrogance or a combination of the two. That sometimes as humans, we want to, like, just tell you what we think is the answer.
Feel powerful in that. It's a power ship for me anyway. When people like to dictate and tell you, no, this is how it is, I'm going, oh, you felt good in that moment, didn't you? You felt good being there for a second. And I don't get that because a lot of them are the ones that were at school messing about with me. Now I'm looking at you like, you hated being told what to do. Why are you doing it to everyone else now?
Well, that's it, isn't it? It's like, but it's probably all wrapped into this idea of, you know, the big person, the big man, the posturer, the I know everything, I can do everything.
It takes a lot of energy to know everything, doesn't it?
That is, you know.
It really, I feel sorry for those people because I'm like, it must be knackering.
It must be knackering to have
in any
knowledge
situation,
in any sphere.
letting everybody know how it be.
Exactly.
You know what? Find your little calling, become expert on it, but not expert to the point of you can't learn anymore. Be forever learning. But then when other people have fascination and interest in other sectors, you can take from that. And that's, I suppose, the beauty of a podcast, isn't it?
Yeah,
so
you have that opportunity. But I mean, even with myself in education, not that I profess myself to be an expert, but it's certainly the field I work in and I'm most qualified to talk about.
Yeah.
So I was on a debate with Britain's strictest head teacher, and again, it's a very polarised thing. It's either let's have the strictest teacher in the UK, or we'll have the freestyle rapper. So it's like, why are these the options?
Daft kid.
Yeah. Like, look, we'll have the clown of a circus, and we'll have Theresa May.
Yeah.
So it's like, but even then, I will always say, this is what I think I do. I'm not telling you what you should do, because what you do will work for you. What I do works for me. And that is not saying it is the way. I'm saying it is a way.
There is
and I do loads of
way,
different ways even within that. And even in a working week, I'm not using the same pedagogy on Monday as I am on Thursday.
Yeah.
So for someone to sit down and say, this is how education should be. No, you can't. You don't have the authority. Like, leave it to the teacher to come up with their own pedagogy. What works for them. And if it's working for them, don't change it.
Yeah.
So it's like, I would never seek to say, you know, how one thing should be.
This is, I was talking to somebody yesterday, and he's a researcher in Nottingham. He was one of the lecturers. And again, he says this is the big problem because particularly with his research, it's people that offend and then go back into society and re-offend. And what they end up finding is that there's loads of research going on, then they look at the society that they're in, they look at the circumstances, they look at so much. But what the governments often do is try and pick a thing that works, and they go to A, to B, to C, to D, come back around, and if it's not quite worked or it's the figures haven't gone in the right direction, they just scrap it. They go, like, well, that didn't work. And they go, so we built, I think research as a collective in the UK did this What Works programme. So they're trying to make it that journey rather than this really linear, like just this to this to this. No, then let's try something new. They're seeing it as a journey now of the What Works program.
It's got to be what works where.
Yeah,
you know,
what
like...
works, and that is in your sector, in your community, in your schools, in your individual classrooms, wherever it is. It's the building a constant. What works at what time might not work tomorrow at 3:00 when they're all knackered or so on. And you've got to be flexible and movement. I had a lovely chat with this guy. I'd like him on a podcast because he was really not just knowledgeable about his sector, but so passionate driven on it. And I love people that talk in that way.
And that's the thing. If I bought my shoes in France for the same size 11, it would be a different shoe I got from there. So one size fits all. It doesn't work. You
but
have
that's
to think
not
about
the media
location.
work, is it? When they get you on, they need a definitive answer.
You're the rapping teacher. This is what you believe.
I tell you what, like, not for this podcast, but I filmed somebody else's, which is called a Prime Life Project. And he had this woman on who was semi-finalist in The Apprentice. And she was explaining the undercard of the media and what goes on. It's really disgusting. In truth, it's really like they feed them once a day, so they all start getting aggy. They
only feed them once a day.
This is
the Hunger Games.
Yeah,
like, what the hell?
They mic them up all the time for 18 hours a day, so they're creating all this content. And then when they start cracking because they've turned all the hot water off as well, and then they're like, I'm gonna leave. They go, oh, you could leave, but it's not going to look very good on the show, is it? We are editing
I'm going to be great on your CV.
And so they're manipulating these people.
You think you're signing up for The Apprentice? You get more like shipwrecked.
Dude,
What,
this girl, she got to the semi-finals, so she was really taken in by it all, and it's like this Stockholm syndrome. And you know, she was just explaining how the media worked, and she was in journalism. So when we got on this podcast with her, she actually said, which was crazy, that the media know what's coming, what the next scandal is, and they know exactly before it's out into the public domain what it's going to be, if it's climate change, what it is. They've prepped themselves, and then they know exactly how they're going to polarize people. So how they're going to separate and split everyone apart, and just make sure, so it's that the strictest teacher here with the crazy guy over here. They're going to have the two audience met, and then they're going to get everyone angry, and that's kind of what it is about. It's just polarizing, because that creates debate creates ears,
it's like playground
everyone's
games.
in.
It's the same, like when I go on Good Morning Britain or any of those shows, I can't tell them all apart, to be honest.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
Well, if you're having a debate, you'll have someone like a producer with you in the green room, and you won't be with the person you're debating. And they do the equivalent of those playground games, like, she's been saying all sorts about you. She had a go at your mum. You know, like they'll just say something to get you angry.
Wow.
And they'll have two producers. One will be with the person you're debating, and they'll be like, "Oh, Christian's been chatting absolute rubbish about you. You know, you should have heard what he said about your mum." You know, and they want to get you in a stage of antagonism to make good TV. Now, if you make good TV, then you can get it on social media. Then you can get the clicks, and then the whole circus continues and continues and
they'll
continues.
Look at everything you've ever said, and they'll look at the most hyperbolic sort of statement you've ever said. So they'll take something really that doesn't define you, but you've said rap is the only way of accessing kids that are naughty.
Yeah.
They'll take that and they go, bosh, that's the statement, boom, that's going to really piss this guy off.
Yeah, exactly.
And then they run from that. So already, when you're in that debate, which a debate should be really at a calm, gentle level where you're working stuff out together, he's at a top level, so you're coming in with guns blazing too, because they're ready to get you apart.
Yeah, it's like they make it like don't flop rap battle.
Yeah.
Which we can do, but we shouldn't have to, you know.
And you're
like...
gonna lose.
Yeah, we shouldn't have to do it like that. But that's the way culture's going, isn't it? It's just click culture, and you see it in music as well. Music is now kind of made for TikTok and it's made for social media. I find myself also doing that. Like, I should be working on like a full-length album, but instead I'm just doing like stupid raps about like, I don't know, I'm in a library doing grime. And it's like, would I be doing this if no one was watching? So I seem to be making stuff for an audience. But then the other day I had an interview, and the first question was, you know, how long have you been a content creator? I was like, I hate it. I'm not a content creator. I like to see myself as an artist. It doesn't mean I can see myself as kind of Picasso, but I'm not Jake Paul.
What is a content creator to them?
Well, literally, it's someone who creates content.
But doesn't every single person that's ever put
in the same way, like, I don't know, like a factory is a content creator.
Yeah.
If you're making the inner tubing of a bicycle wheel, you're a content creator. That's just your content. But it's the same approach. You've got a conveyor belt, and you've got to make a certain amount of inner tubes for bicycles each day. If you don't make your 2,000, you're going to lose your job. Could be the same on Instagram. If you don't take 2,000 bikini pics this year and pump out your content, which is, you know, your inner tubing, like it, like
sounds great.
So it's this same conveyor belt factory approach to produce, and then it's like hyperinflation. The content itself becomes meaningless. It's just the fact that it exists. And if that's what's happening to music, then it's like, it's not the direction you want to go in. But then again, every generation has looked back at the music they made when they were in their prime and said, this was how it should be. All right. When hip hop came along, everyone was like, what are you doing to our soul records? You know, what are you doing to Coltrane? What are you doing to Davis? But then when Davis and Coltrane came out, they're like, what are you doing to Nat King Cole? So this is always going to be the trajectory. But now, as I turn 30 and have an ultimate existential crisis,
seriously, what are you doing to our music?
Yeah. It's like, but no one wants to hear, like, unless you're like Jay-Z or something, no one wants to hear the middle-aged white rapper's opinion. I'm not dissing Eminem, but, you know, there are times where Eminem is such an amazing rapper, right? What he can do with words is amazing. But what he has to say is not much. Like, he's just like rapping for rapping's sake now, and each new Eminem verse what has he actually said in the last like 15 years?
Which album is the one where he was on it and consciously, and also all the wordplay was right? Do you have an album where you think, yeah, that's that's Eminem?
His first 2 albums are just hugely offensive. Again, like if you're listening, but from a technical standpoint, and also what people didn't understand, like all the, I guess what would now be called Karens, the right wing press and the Republicans. yeah. What they were so outraged at was no different to being outraged at a TV show. They just didn't realize he was playing a character.
Yeah.
Like people aren't having a massive go at Scar from The Lion King because they understand that he is playing a role of a villain voiced by an actor in an imaginary world. The Slim Shady was that with Eminem, and it was being pumped out to the same age group as The Lion King. That was the problem. All right, so hugely offensive. I can understand, but you have to see, rap is just another form of entertainment.
That happened to Jason Momoa in an interview recently, and he was. Did you see it?
No,
he walked out in the end. But this guy, again, from what you would quote unquote woke culture or PC world said, he said to Jason about the Game of Thrones scene where he had to rape. I can't remember her name, but the Queen of Dragons.
Yeah.
And he said, given the situation where the world is at now, how do you feel for that scene? Would you have wished or asked to not be a part of it, or so on? And Jason Momoa just went, dude, that do you know what character I was playing in Game of Thrones? I was one of the most barbaric characters of all time. I think it was based off of Genghis Khan, wasn't it?
Yeah, this idea of rape and conquer.
That was depicting a moment of time, and he just said, dude, what are you on about? Me, Jason Momoa, now talking.
Yeah, he's like, I'm Jason Momoa.
Yeah, and he spoke to him. How do you feel about that scene, and would you have still been a part of it? And he just went, dude, this is over. I hate that question. And
because people could not separate.
The art.
You need to be able to say. Now, that's not saying that art can't have negative consequences, but stuff like that. And then we end up getting bogged down in these, like, the minutiae of culture war, when really we should be addressing, like, the major problems that we have. Like, the world's on fire. There's a refugee crisis because the West keep constantly bombing everywhere and then suddenly retreating and be like, oops. There are
Why are you coming to us for
help?
help?
There's famine, there's pestilence, there's every 7 deadly plague is happening somewhere, and everyone's just like, well, your character did something on a magical fantasy TV show.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that? And it's like, this is the wrong thing to get outraged at. By all means, be outraged, but be outraged at the things that are outrageous. But then again, look, what were we saying? Eminem, he's, 50, 55?
Yeah.
He's like my dad's age. No one wants my dad to do a rap album. They're like, how am I going to flow and perform when I'm meant to be mowing the lawn?
You can't quite but maybe I think if Eminem, out of anybody, he's the one that could, again, pioneer something where 60-year-old or 70, where he gets to, he's gained all this newfound wisdom, and it's going to come into the best album of all time.
Have you heard of you heard of Pete and Baz?
Is this the grime?
The grime,
Yes.
the drill duo almost. I love them, but I'm also annoyed at them because that was my pension idea.
Really?
Because in my mind, I do have a pension from being employed.
What do they talk about? I've not heard them.
All sorts of violence, everything. Like it's so funny. But again, no one's looking at Pete and Baz like, hang on, did you just rob a Vauxhall Nova? People understand that it's entertainment. It's not the same thing. I'm annoyed though because that was my idea when I was like. Instead of having a pension, I was like, look, I don't think I'm going to lose the ability to be able to rap. I think that even if I go senile, I might freestyle for an MP3 file in the meanwhile. So I don't think that I'm going to forget in the same way that I'm not going to forget how to speak English.
Yeah.
All right.
Like football's quite a short-lived shelf life. You play until you're 36, then you may get to vets, but you kind of, your legs kick out.
So like,
but if your mind keeps going,
as long as I can, keep going. But I'm not going to keep going. I will stop after time, but then I will make a resurgence. When I'm like 75, and I'm going to drop a freestyle about, I don't know, like my care home that I've been put in.
Full of AI.
Yeah, let's get this down to the bare bones. I hate every single robot in my single care home. And everyone will have their brains blown. And this is going to be my pension. Getting this old school viral attention that I mentioned.
You sold it to me. Just hope TikTok's not around.
But they've done it first, so if you're listening, Pete and Baz, I respect you and I hate you.
Yeah, but dude, we have got to go and conduct ourselves and build this little stage out here for all the kids that we're gonna. I was gonna say touching by accident, reaching.
We will be communicating with the younger generation through the medium of rap.
Guys. But before all that, I do want to know on a level, like, what have you got coming up? What are the big ideas? What is the dream? Because we've had an amazing roller coaster, and I have bloody loved this podcast. But I would like some base level. What is the Muzzy Foley show got in store?
Whoever knows, I'm doing a doctorate in my work, so the idea is, again, well, I would be the rapping teacher, now I'll be the rapping doctor. Not like Dre, I don't think he's got a doctorate, but I want to be in a position where I can academically rebut anyone who says this is nonsense. Because I've been annoyed with, as much as I say, I don't care, it's still a bit annoying when people are like, what you do is not working.
Yeah.
I want to here's the academic research, I did it. Read it. Bye. I think I'm doing a PhD out of spite. So that's coming up. My spiteful doctorate.
Yeah, and again, you've got this array of research, but even a beautiful anecdote. Like, I love that as well, as much as research. Just hearing, well, actually, I've got one where this kid, Kanan, I went into this school, really deprived area, dad's in prison. He was supposed to be the one they tell you to look out for.
I'll watch over this
and literally, I went in, had an amazing experience, just doing poetry. He went, that's not poetry. That's fucking sick. And just shouted it out. But literally, I had this awesome workshop from that. And now Kanan, to this day, which was 5 years ago is putting on a grime night in Nottingham.
Well, there you go.
Boom. That's one anecdote, but that's enough sometimes.
That's like when you... Being an educator is like dropping a rock in a small pool, all right, and then walking off. Now, that is going to generate ripples, and you don't know where those ripples are going to travel, but they're going to travel outwards, and then more people are going to come and drop rocks. So it's this idea of you're not going to see what happens, but something good is going to happen. And you get to do that every day as an educator.
And he's going to be one of the rock droppers.
Well, exactly. So the cycle continues. So I think whatever my direction takes, it's always going to be involved in education. It's always going to be involved in school. I'd love to set up my own school. I think that would be like...
Mate, please, I'm coming for the first job interview.
Yeah, like, that's it.
It's not going to be like any other... I've never been for a job interview, to be totally honest. But for you, I would definitely... Anything you ask,
well, I've got to set up the school first.
Yeah. I've got some buses, brother.
Yeah. School bus. The school bus where the bus is the school and the school is the bus. Yeah, I like that. So yeah, that's the idea. I mean, it's always going to be something to do with education. Whether I continue my rap career and do more albums, I would love to, but I am at that stage where it's like, am I getting a bit old for this? I'm going for a real existential crisis. That's coming in the post, my existential crisis, so keep an eye on that, or that manifests.
I suppose, but the way you're envisioning that or weighing that up is through something that's been ingrained or told to you or felt in society, because
and it doesn't need to be like that.
It really shouldn't.
I could just change the narrative if I wanted.
I think that is the most important thing you could do, because your voice is so needed for people out there disillusioned, don't fit the mold. Our voices, we deserve to be a part of that collective, and so do the intellect, so do these people. It isn't a one size fits all.
Yeah,
and I absolutely adore what you do. And if you had a school open, any kid I have after Ella is going straight to that school. So I really, and honestly, man, I want you back on this podcast, because we need to talk about being fathers. We need to talk about more in the education, more music, because you've got that encyclopedia knowledge. I love this podcast.
There's always more to talk about.
I've really enjoyed it. So tell everyone on this camera right now, where can they find you?
Didn't realise you were there the whole time. Hi,
You've
everyone.
got a nice side profile.
My name is Christian Foley.
That smile.
Now I'm looking to the camera with a grammar to be breaking down the parameters of what you thought a rapper is. I know what you're doing. I know what you're thinking. I'm joking. My name's Christian Foley. You can follow me on the surprising Twitter name of C Foley Poetry. C for Christian. Christian Foley Poetry on Instagram. On TikTok, if that's your thing, which apparently it is mine, Christian Foley Poetry. Facebook, Christian Foley. And I think that is all the places you can find me. Otherwise, I live in Brixton. If you want to knock on my door, don't do that.
Guys,
Thank you.
You've been a part of the Old Farm Bus, Back of the Bus Sessions podcast. What do we leave you on? Remember this. Just be nice to one another, you beautiful set of buggers. That's all you got to do, mate. Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much.
I've loved it. Big love, guys. See you soon.